American style, the NHRA Winston Drag Racing Championship, and we're taking a look at round 3 of the series, the 28th running of the Mac-Tools Gatornationals from Gainesville. Gary Selsey comes as one of the favourites. He's won the 2 opening rounds of the championship so far, and that means that he matches the record with Kenny Brown, who won both of the opening rounds back in 1978. The team also has done well here in the past. On the far side, the winning car here last year was that of Blaine Johnson, and it's that car that Gary Selsey will be driving on this occasion. The Winston team looking for another success to keep it 100% record in the year so far. Let's take a look at the top 16 qualifiers, and it's Joe Amato who's set the initial pace in the qualifying runs. Gary Selsey's there though with the 3rd fastest time, so a 3rd win in 1997 is certainly not beyond the realms of possibility for Gary Selsey. So a look at how the elimination ladder works out, and Amato up against Powell in that 1st round. Watch out for some of the other top runners. Scott Kalita down there, Kenny Bernstein, the reigning champion, and Gary Selsey will be running in the 1st round with that 3rd fastest time earlier on. He'll be against Pat Dakin in this 1st round of the eliminator. So let's get into this 1st round, and we've got Joe Amato on the left-hand side up against the lady racer Kristen Powell, just 17 years old on the far side. That's on board with Kristen Powell, but it's Joe Amato on the near side who takes the win in this 1st round, 312 miles per hour at the end of the strip.
This may be the most overpowering hot rod in the sport today, a 464 at 312. Wow.
Jimmy Fox is making a lot of horsepower, Steve, you know, but the sun comes out.
He's learned how to manage that horsepower.
That's the trick, you know, but I can't tell too many people that, though, you know. Over the winter, all the crew teams were coming to try and steal them off me, you know, but we worked together, we paid our dues together. Now we got to get a little bit of reward for the paying the dues.
So Joe Amato starting off well. Next up, Eddie Hill, the 61-year-old Texan. Is not always youngsters competing in this form of the sport. Corey McLenathan next up on the inside in the McDonald's car, and big problems for Eddie Hill on the far side. Eddie Hill's car explodes in dramatic fashion on the far side, and that calls an end to his particular race. The Pensacola Special. Let's take another look from the back view. Just watch the back of the car. Bang! In a big way. And Eddie Hill out of the competition, but thankfully kept the car still in one straight line and managed to bring it to a halt safely. Let's have a word with Eddie Hill.
Physically is okay, but mentally and emotionally that was a blow. That supercharger is completely off that engine.
Yeah, something wasn't right there. We had I guess another mechanical failure. We've had a lot of those, and our luck hadn't seemed to be too good, but that hurt a little bit, but I'm okay.
So let's now take a look at Pat Dakin versus Gary Selsey. Selsey, the winner of the first 2 rounds of the championship, remember. And a bad getaway for Pat Dakin. And that gives Selsey an uncontested victory. 301 miles per hour, 4.71 the time. And the figure on the right, the reaction time. Keep an eye on that as well. Around about half a second for these guys off the line. Kenny Bernstein is next up in the Budweiser car versus Tommy Johnson Jr. And it's Bernstein, the reigning champion, who wins it in a smoky finish. So, the 1996 winner of the series, going well in the early stages. 52 years old now, Kenny Bernstein, but that's put him through to the next round. Let's just check on the other members. Amato there against Van der Griff, and also McLenathan and Dunn. Selsey is up against Head for the next round. So on to the funny cars now. Last year, this happened to Tom Hoover. He lost his bodywork, but still had a competitive run back in 1980. This Gainesville track was the venue of one of the first under 5 seconds run. It was from Don Preno, who had 4 victories on this track. Kenny Bernstein won here in 1984 with the first run over 260 miles an hour at the end of the strip. And Freddie Neely recorded 294 miles per hour here in 1993. Last year it was John Force who took the win with both he and Corey Pedregon over 300 miles per hour in the semis. Cruz Pedregon, the fastest again here after the top 16 qualifying runs have been held. Hal Hoffman going well. John Force, the reigning champion, third fastest. Tony Pedregon further down, ninth fastest for him. And Tom Hoover there, 13th, the man we saw losing that bodywork in 1996. So the elimination ladder and the lineups for the first round of the funny cars. The funny cars, the fiberglass replica body over very much a specifically built drag racing car. Short wheelbase, and the engine's mounted ahead of the driver rather than behind the driver, as we saw in the top fuel category. So into the first round of the competition, and we're going to see Dale Warsham versus Al Hoffman first up. Al Hoffman on the far side, the 49-year-old from Florida, so on home territory here, started his drag racing back in 1979. A blast to get away, dramatic stuff as ever, and it's a very close run thing. Al Hoffman just takes the win, 305 miles an hour for him.
Dale's a hell of a racer. He was right there all the way, and that was a good drag race. That's what the fan comes to see, and we enjoyed that one.
Next up, Tim Wilkerson and Mark Oswald. Mark Oswald finished 6th in the championship last year, a former champion himself in this class. Just watch that getaway once again as the power goes down through the rear wheels, and it's Mark Oswald who takes the victory. Not such a fast run, but he made it ahead of Tim Wilkerson.
It was real tight. I mean, he had me by about a half a car length towards the end, and said he was forced to shut it off. I believe him. I don't think I could have quite gotten around him.
So Oswald a little bit fortunate on that one in the end. Kenji Okazaki versus Chuck Etchells next up. And Okazaki, the first Japanese driver to get an NHRA license a few years ago, but he doesn't get away very well, makes it all look rather difficult, so it's a win for Chuck Etchells. 300 miles an hour, 5.12 his elapsed time. Gary Densham versus Tony Pedregon next. First round of the funny car competition. It's another closely matched contest, but Gary Densham in the NEC car just snatches the victory.
Yeah, I tell you, I did. I mean, it was such a race. I saw Tony about 1,200 feet, just the nose of his car, and then it vanished. I wasn't sure who won. I get out, they're filming his car. I thought, God, my crew's going to kill me. We lost this race.
Yeah, you won it with a 5:03.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
Close run thing, though, for Gary Densham. So the lineup for the next round sees him up against Pedregon. Hoover versus Mark Oswald. And the speeds as fast as ever on this Gainesville track. Hoffman versus Etchells and John Force, the reigning champion, up against Dean Scusa for round 2. We'll be back with more after the break. Welcome back to drag racing from Gainesville in Florida, and as we move on through the competition, we've looked at the top fuel cars, the funny cars, and it's time for a look at the pro stock cars now as well. The top 16 qualifiers from the pro stocks, and Warren Johnson right up there with his son Kirk Johnson, only a fraction behind him. Jerry Ekman, Jim Yates also up there. Jim Yates with the 4th fastest time, the reigning champion in the pro stock category. So the lineups for this first round of the cars, the pro stock extensively modified production-derived cars. All the models from 1991 onwards, they have to be based on a car built after that date. And unlike the nitromethane burning engines of the funny cars and the top fuelers, these cars run on more normal petrol. So into the first round then, and Troy Coughlin versus Ray Franks, both in the Pontiac Firebirds, and about to get underway. Watch the Christmas tree lights in the center, and away they go, and it's another closely fought contest between the two of them. It's going to be Ray Franks just who takes the win. Ray Franks wins it. The 43-year-old finished 13th in the championship last year. Franks comes through to take the first round 1 victory in the pro stocks.
You must like that 6 seconds on. You had your first one in qualifying, and now it's 6:99, and what a squeaker over Troy.
I didn't know how close it was. I didn't know how fast we ran, but I knew it was a good race. Looked like I might have had him out of the gate a little bit.
So good reaction time there from Ray Franks. Warren Johnson's next up, 3 times the champion and one of the most winning drivers in this class. He's up against Pete Williams. As away they go. And it's Warren Johnson on the far side who takes the victory. Let's just check the times. 6.96, another fast time, just under the 200-mile-an-hour mark. That's a great run from Warren Johnson.
Warren, this stupid headwind is costing you money. 199 miles an hour again.
Well, we're just happy with the win. The 199 miles an hour, be it that as it may, the win is the important part of this thing. That means we've got another shot at it.
It's 696.
696 is good for the seat, at least good for us anyway.
Good for anybody.
So another sub-7-second time in the Pro Stocks. That's good performance. These engines not producing anything like the same power as the funny cars and the top fuelers. Next up, Lewis Warden versus Mark Powick. As the Christmas tree lights set them away. It's an even contest once again, but it's Mark Powick who just comes through to take the win. 20th in 1996, not a great season. Just over the 7-second mark for him.
Mark, if you're going to run a 7:08, you better leave first.
Yeah, you know, Steve, we broke our good piece yesterday on the last qualifying session, and we put our backup in. And it was on a pretty good run, and something happened in high gear, and the thing shut off. But I'll take them any way I can get them after last year. Every round helps.
Nice driving.
Thank you, Steve.
Next up, we've got the reigning champion, Jim Yates, versus Terry Adams. 43-year-old Jim Yates had a great season last year, dominated the Pro Stock category, and he's coming through to take the win again here. On the far side, Jim Yates, check the time, 6.95, 197 miles per hour, again just below that 200 mark. Jim Yates looking in top form, as we would have expected from the man who did so well last year. The lineup for the second round then, Warren Johnson also looking in good shape, and the other member of the Johnson family's also made it through to round 2. So we're back to the top fuel cars now, the real rapid machines. These things pumping out 5,500 brake horsepower. Absolutely incredible. Supercharged, custom-built engines running on nitromethane. And Joe Amato looking to try and take another victory here. Amato versus Bob Vandergriff. Oh, a very close run, but it's Amato at 4.65, a 312 mile per hour run. And Joe Amato just sneaking the victory this time. These machines burning between 10 and 12 gallons of nitromethane on every single run. 10 gallons, and when it costs $30 a gallon, it's not a cheap form of motorsport. There, a look at the immense power unit producing that 5,500 horsepower as we get into the next race between Mike Dunn and Corey McLenathan. Just getting into position. When the staging lights come on, that means they're ready to go. And then the green, oh, and problems for McLenathan, and it's a win for Mike Dunn. 310 miles an hour at the end of the quarter mile. 4.68 is elapsed time. Such a competitive form of drag racing. And we've got the final 4 lineup now. It's Joe Amato versus Scott Kalita. He went through from his earlier run. And Mike Dunn, the winner we just saw there, he's up against Gary Scelzi. Scelzi has made it through to the final 4. Into the second round for the funny cars now. And first up, Mark Oswald versus Tom Hoover. Watch the lights. The pre-stage means they're nearly in position. When they cross the light beam, that means they're then staged. They then wait for the ambers to come on, and 0.4 of a second after the ambers come on, then the greens come on. Just watch the lights change, and away they go. And they've got to move on the green. If they move on the amber, then it's a red light, but it's a great win for Mark Oswald. Oswald wins 5.09 seconds, 287 miles per hour. John Force versus Dean Scusa. Our next 2. John Force, the reigning champion. And away they go. The lights let them go, and it's John Force on the inside here who comes through to take victory. Dean Scusa in trouble. No, in fact, it's Scusa who wins. It is Scusa who wins on the inside in the Matco car. So problems for John Force, that's unexpected. John Force out of the action already in this early stage of the competition. He was running well until the problems intervened. John Force out then. So Dean Scusa goes through, and that's a real surprise result as Force goes out of it, the winner of the Funny Car Championship last year. But that means a very, very happy Dean Scusa. Look at him. He is absolutely delighted.
Well, I just owe that all to my crew chiefs and my team because I think they've had a lot of sleepless nights with that guy winning all the time, you know?
So next up, we've got Etchells versus Hoffman. Hoffman on the inside here. Al Hoffman, one of the most experienced campaigners on the scene. Been running well in the competition so far, but can he go well here? Look at that, a good run. Just look at the speed these things get up to in the quarter mile. Up to 310 miles an hour in just 4.9 seconds.
Poor old orphan Al. Best he can muster is 496 at 310.
What a pig. we're excited. This thing's doing exactly what we wanted to. I may not have a major sponsor right now, but we're working towards it. And with Pontiac behind us, I mean, we got the fastest hot rod out here right now, and I think you're going to see some big speed out of this car if we can get a little cool air later.
They cooling down a little bit as we go through. Next up, Gary Densham versus Cruz Pedregon. So still this second round of the funny cars. Watch those lights, the amber to green, and a great getaway once again from these two guys. And on the inside, it's Densham who wins it. Gary Densham. He does 297 miles per hour rather, in just over 5 seconds. Just think about that moment for a moment. Nearly 300 miles per hour in 5 seconds. That's some going.
Gary has had 2 squeakers, and that time you beat him with old age and treachery on a whole shot.
Did we? Oh, that's great, Steve. I was so late first round. Tony almost nailed me. I had to get back at his brother. I guess that's the way he had to go.
So the final 4, and we've got Densham versus Mark Oswald. And Al Hoffman's going to be up against Dean Scusa. All a little bit unknown from previous experience. So we're into Pro Stock round 2 now. The modified production cars, very extensively modified, you have to say. But these cars at least looking a little bit more like their road-going brethren. Kurt Johnson versus Ray Franks. Kurt Johnson, son of Warren Johnson, also going well in the Pro Stocks. Ready to go, away they go then. The blast up the strip. It's a very even match, but it's just a victory for Kurt Johnson. 7-second lapse time, 197 miles per hour. Finished 4th in the championship last year. Going well at the moment.
Kurt is a 7 flat, good right now or just okay?
Actually, she was pretty loose out in the middle of the track, and I thought we were going to rub the AC duckle right off the side of this door here. You know, that pull down by force didn't really help us. We're just glad to win this round, though. Hopefully we can get this thing in the final.
So next up, we've got Warren Johnson, who is Kurt's father, of course, and now he's got himself this far, but can he get himself into the final itself? Darrell Alderman is who he's up against, and as the lights flick to green, on board we ride. Get a little bit more of a view. It's a win for Warren Johnson. Fairly easy win in the end, in fact. Started his Winston Pro Stock career back in 1975. Still very rapid.
A 697 on a fairly greasy racetrack now.
Steve, it's really loose out there. In fact, when I got to the lights, it started sliding around and coming around on me. I thought it was in a dirt track car for a while. But it's main thing is we won. That's an important thing. This point situation is going to go right down to the wire, and it's not going to just be Yates and myself. I guarantee there's going to be some other cars in this mix.
Yep, there's some new players.
Well, talking of Jim Yates, he's up next on the far side there. He's up against Mark Powick this time. Can Jim Yates keep up this strong performance? 8 overall wins in 1996. Event wins. Now what can he do here at Gainesville? Away they go. Oh, and it's good from Mark Powick. It's a good start from him. He could perhaps get the edge on Jim Yates, but Yates comes stronger on the latter part of the strip. And it's Yates who comes through to win it. So Jim Yates pretty happy with it so far into the next
Well, Jim,
session.
both Johnson said the racetrack is treacherous right now.
You know, it's a little loose out there. We watched them go down. They were moving around real bad down through the middle, so the crew put the wing up a click or two, and I think that really helped us get through there. How did we run a...
696, you got lane choice.
Whew, that's great. You need that. We
need everything you can get in Pro Stock Wars.
So with the faster time, he's got the choice of which lane to use. And the lineup for the final four, Warren Johnson will be up against Jim Yates, and Kurt Johnson will be up against Mike Edwards. And we'll be back with the finals after the break. It's round 3 of the NHRA Winston Drag Racing Series from Gainesville in Florida, and we're ready for the finals here. And first of all, the Pro Stock Finals, and we're going to start off with Kurt Johnson versus Mike Edwards. Kurt Johnson on the far side, Mike Edwards on the near side here. Edwards, the co-rookie of the year in 1996. It all went very swimmingly for him last season, but there are problems for Kurt Johnson. The team is rushing up to the car. He's done the burnout, but he can't get it back down the strip, and it looks as though it could all be over for him here in the semi-finals. What a disappointment. So yes, Mike Edwards is going to do a solo run, so that makes life very easy. He gets onto the pre-stage light stage, and away he goes on the green. And Mike Edwards has a nice easy run through to the line and guarantees his place in the final. Well, that was all a little bit straightforward for Mike Edwards, but what happened to Kurt Johnson?
Kurt Johnson, an uncharacteristic problem out of this AC Delco team. Do you have any idea what broke out there?
I don't know. You know, there's oil out on the racetrack out there, KC. The thing started to flutter real bad. I thought I broke a valve spring and dropped the valve, but what I got here in my hand is a chunk of piston. So when a Pro Stock motor starts putting parts like this out on the racetrack, you know it's bad. The AC Delco car was flying all weekend. We ran 690s, qualified number 2 at 694, and this is, like you say, real uncharacteristic.
So disappointment for Kurt Johnson, not able to contest that run. Meanwhile, up with the next two, and it's Jim Yates versus Warren Johnson. The father of Kurt there, and Jim Yates, the man to beat in the series. The Pro Stock master at the moment. There's Warren Johnson, and is Johnson going to be able to make up for the family disappointment so far and try and take the win from Jim Yates? Blast off. It's very, very close. Johnson on the near side just has the edge, but does he know it's just Jim Yates, I think, who's just snatched it? Yes, it's 6.99, 197 miles per hour. Jim Yates sneaked that one by the very narrowest of margins.
Jim, if you look at Mike Edwards' performances today, he appears to be a sitting duck.
Well, you know, you can never take Mike Edwards for granted. He took me out several times last year in key races, so we're racing him just like he was Warren Johnson sitting over there. He's a tough competitor. He's given us a handful all last year, so we're going to try to hold one on this year.
He'll try to run 200 miles an hour. JC Spurlock?
Mike Edwards, you've had great qualifying runs in your career. You've had great races in your career, but this may be the weekend that it's better to be lucky than good.
That's right, Casey. Today's been an incredible day. I tell you what, it seems like every time I pull up there, the other guys either red lighting or braking, and you know, some days you just that luck goes your way, and you know, I just thank the good Lord for this day, and try to make it one more round for this Pontiac to find.
So those two guys will be racing for the final honours in the Pro Stock category. There it is, Mike Edwards versus Jim Yates. And Edwards didn't do too badly against him last year. So now we're on to the final four of the funny cars. And the first run we're going to see is Al Hoffman on the near side here versus Dean Scusa, the man who put John Force out earlier on in the competition. But John Force did have troubles, as we saw. Al Hoffman will be looking to try and make it through to the final. So the pre-stage lights are on. Once the cars are totally in position, the next row of lights come on. There they go, and the Amazon green, away they go. Oh, it looked a little bit of a tricky start from Scusa. Looks as though he's had to back off a bit. Al Hoffman comes through to take the win. 4.97 seconds. Another sub 5 second run from the funny cars. And Al Hoffman goes through to the final with that. You could just see on the far side, Scusa, the car just starting to weave around a bit, and he had to back off, and that really allowed Al Hoffman to come through to take the win. So the next semi-final, and it's Gary Densham versus Mark Oswald. Oswald in the In-N-Out Burger Joints sponsored car, but problems for Gary Densham.
Gary Densham, you had a great weekend going. Unfortunately, it came to a quick end in the semifinals.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, JC. I mean, the thing sounded great. The motor sounded terrific. We changed motors before this round because we, started to get number 5 main bearing a little bit. We probably could have run it. Something in the clutch gave up, like the throwout bearing disintegrated up, backing up. I don't know what it is, but we, take it apart when we get back to pit.
So another one in trouble, and that means a free ride for Mark Oswald, who makes his way through to the final. He'll be up against Al Hoffman. So that'll be the final for the funny cars. Hoffman versus Oswald. Hoffman with the advantage in their previous competitions. Our Gator country seems to be enjoying the view here, and thousands of fans gathered to watch this top-class drag racing series. It really is a world beater in terms of the level of competition, the money spent, and the amount of effort that's put in by the drivers. So we're into the Top Fuel Final Four now. Gary Selsey, remember, on the far side, he's won every round, well, the opening 2 rounds of the championship so far, but oh, I don't know if he's won this one. I don't think he has. No, it's Mike Dunn who takes the victory this time, and Gary Selsey, for the first time in 97, will not win the event. The Winston car on the far side couldn't quite maintain the pace this time, so Mike Dunn takes the win, and he goes through to the final. But look again, just how close it was. Well, these machines, the fuel pump on these cars, delivering 58 gallons per minute. And that's equal to 8 bathroom showers all running at the same time. That's how much fuel is being pumped into these incredible machines. As we look at the lineup for the next semi-final, Scott Kalita versus Joe Amato. Amato nearest the camera. The veteran, so experienced. Let's watch the lights. They get into position. And go. Joe Amato gets a little bit of a weave on initially, but he's got the edge and he wins it. So Joe Amato will take his, look at that, 4.66 seconds, 311 miles per hour. A great run there from Joe Amato. So that sees him through to the final.
I got to tell you, the nitro fumes are thick down here. Joe has one of these. I didn't. But Joe, you saw what Mike Dunn did to Gary Selsey. He's going to try to cut you up at the knees, buddy.
Yeah, Mike Dunn has been driving good, Steve. But more importantly, we had the car ready to start, and they found something wrong with the valve train. They had to go back and change the motor. So that makes Joe Amato and the whole team nervous. But I got a good team over there, and they put the motor in. And we just got it warmed up. So now we're going to hustle and get it up in the lanes. But we're just going to run our own race and go up there and try and do it. I know Mike Dunn's probably looking to whole shot me, but we're just going to do our race and hope the best man wins. Maybe God will be looking over our shoulder. It's our turn.
So the lineup for the final then is Joe Amato versus Mike Dunn. Mike Dunn with the advantage, but can he maintain it in this all-important final? So just before we get into that, let's have a look at the Pro Stock Bike final. These amazing two-wheeled machines running in support of the rest of the series. And we'll take a look at the lineup for the final, and in the reigning champion on the far side there, Dave Schultz, the favorite to take victory once again. And we'll just have to see whether he can keep up the sort of performances that he put in last year. Dave Schultz on the far side, just look at those bikes go. And it is Schultz who comes through to take the win. Dave Schultz, the dominant winner of the series last year. 7.49 seconds, 176 miles per hour on two wheels. Pretty impressive stuff once again. So with the bikes having done their little bit, now it's time to concentrate on some of the other activities again. But before we do that, let's just have a quick word with Dave Schultz.
Dave Schultz, you have cleaned the table here in Gainesville. The national record, the victory, fabulous.
Well, that's what we came here to do. We worked awful hard. Craig went back to Fort Myers, worked all night. We just had to change the motor before the last round. We had to head off before the round before. Our guys have worked their butts off for the Sunoco Suzuki team. It couldn't be better.
Bobby, apparently it wasn't as easy as he made it look.
Well, it looked pretty easy from the way we were looking at, beating Matt Hines there in the final, and that means that he's got the lead once again in the championship, just as was the case throughout most of last year. 6 times the Pro Stock Motorbike champion, Dave Schultz. It's a record already. I wonder if he can add a 7th title to his tally in '97. Well, back to the cars now, and we'll start off with the Pro Stock final. It's Jim Yates in the McDonald's car, and he's up against Mike Edwards on the inside. Edwards, there he is, co-rookie of the year in '96, 3rd overall in the championship last year. And interestingly, he's the only driver in the top 10 to be his own crew chief. Everyone else employing some top names to look after the mechanical side and how the team runs, but Mike Edwards does all that himself as well as drive.
On paper. I don't think I'm the first one that ever said that. But after I did that previous interview with Jim Yates and we talked about the 200-mile-an-hour thing, he said, I don't think it can be done. We'll have to go on to Houston where myself or Warren or maybe Kurt will probably do it. Just as little tiny Edwards will probably do that.
So let's hear a word from the pundits down on the track.
Performance, sometimes these races can be won on luck. I've won them both ways. Obviously, Yates has the horsepower. Maska may not be tuning the wrenches, but he's still there.
So it looks as though Jim Yates will pretty much start this race as favourite. There he is.
I'm going to put my money on Mike Edwards. Bob, we've got it one way, both ways.
Some people going for Mike Edwards, as you can hear. So let's just see. All to be proven as they get into position. The new boy in the white car. Still the new boy, really, in terms of experience. Jim Yates, the reigning champion on the far side, who's going to be the winner of this Gainesville event, the Gatornationals. Away they go. Good reaction from Yates on the far side, but it's very much even Stevens up the strip, but Yates just takes it. Good run from Mike Edwards to keep the champion under pressure, but in the end, Jim Yates dominating proceedings once again. 6.96, 197 miles per hour, and Yates can be delighted. He's done it once more and keeps up a tremendous record in the season. Well, Gainesville certainly seems to suit Jim Yates. He was the winner of the event here in 1996 as well. And the Florida fans are getting used to see him right up at the front.
For 2 years in a row, this man from Virginia has won the Mac Tools Gatornationals at 696. Finished him up. Come in here. Give him that beautiful NHRA championship trophy. A lot of racers in the world would kill for just one of those, and you got a ton of them.
Well, I tell you, we're getting more and more every day, but I just want to thank all my crew, McDonald's, Dynamax, Pontiac, Champion, Shell Interstate, everybody sticking with us. And my crew does such a good job this weekend. Jerry Bickle, Rich Purdy, everybody back here, my wife Tony, and my son Jamie. I mean, it's just great. I mean, they've really done a great job.
Polish his little head. There you go. Bob.
So Jim Yates is the first of our winners. Warren Johnson still leads the championship, but it's down to just 3 points now. Kurt Johnson in third, ahead of Mark Powick, and we'll be back with the funnies and the top fuelers after this. For the Gatornationals and into the finals, we've already seen at the Pro Stock class go to Jim Yates, but now we're into the funny car final, and it's Al Hoffman in the blue and white car here, up against Mark Oswald. Hoffman Only one of 3 drivers to beat John Force in the finals last year. But John Force went out of this event a little bit earlier on. Mark Oswald on the far side. Let's see what happens between these two. The shootout for the final. They're staged, they're ready, they go. Oh, and it's a terrible start for Mark Oswald. It's all gone wrong for him. Hoffman looks to have it. Oh, and the car's exploded. An explosion dramatic from Al Hoffman as he crossed the line, the winner of the race. But look at that. My word, a horrendous accident for Al Hoffman. The fire crews, the marshals on the scene incredibly quickly, as you can see. An absolute fireball as that nitromethane supplied engine just went up in smoke, and the car then veering from side to side as Hoffman inside that fireball tried to keep it all under control. Let's just take another look. The car on the right, Mark Oswald, was in trouble early on. Al Hoffman had it easy coming up towards the line, and then bang. It looks as though the supercharger blew, and then the whole thing just went up in smoke. The parachute just burning in the background. He couldn't even get the car slowed down, and there the driver sitting in the middle of that blazing inferno. Horrendous. Let's go down to our reporter on the scene to find out what's happening.
The Al Hoffman car was upside down, straddling the rail. The roll cage was on the track side of the guardrail. The motor and the rest of the car was on the grass side of the guardrail. Al was upside down, hanging literally off this rail, but talking to NHRA Safety Safari and their medical personnel. They took the car, as you can see now, and they have righted it and pushed it over on the other side of the rail. Al was able to help himself, help them, get him out of the car, and he stumbled over to where they are now working on him. I have no reports as to his condition other than he was talking to them, and I physically saw him able to kind of help himself get to the stretcher. Crew Chief Jimbo Rimilovich is looking over the damage here. Helen Hoffman is down as well, and as soon as we know exactly what his condition is, we'll let you know. We're not going to make any guesses. That's not fair to anyone. All we can tell you is he was conscious.
Take a look at the helicopter. As you heard Dan Bricky say, they will take Al out to the Shands Medical Center, which is just down the road here from Gainesville Raceway, and one of the most highly regarded medical centers here in the country, especially the southeastern part here.
So, horrendous stuff for Al Hoffman, and let me tell you, the initial reports, not so bad as you might have thought. Broken arm, broken leg for Hoffman, but otherwise, basically okay. So, with relief, we move on to the Top Fuelers final now. It's Joe Amato versus Mike Dunn. Mike Dunn, 40 years old, his father got him into drag racing. His father's still involved as a crew chief on one of the other team cars, but Joe Amato, many times the champion. Can he take the victory this time? Comes from Pennsylvania, one of the favorite drivers on the scene. He's the only driver, in fact, ever to have won 5 of the NHRA Winston Top Fuel Championships. First one was back in 1984.
I like both of them.
Then 1988, and then 1990 through to 1992. And he's the only driver ever to win 3 straight Top Fuel titles. He's finished in the top 10 of the NHRA Winston standings for 15 straight years since starting his Top Fuel career in 1982. There's a quick look at the man himself, Joe Amato, from Old Forge, Pennsylvania.
Well, I've got to tell you, even though Jimmy Brock's making a lot of horsepower, I think this cooler air that's just started to roll in may affect what otherwise has been a perfect tune-up all weekend long. Plus, every heart inside of this racetrack is pulling for this Florida-based Darrell Gwynn team. I give it to Mike Dunn and the Darrell Gwynn Mopar Top Fuel drag. Mike Dunn on the inside then, the younger man, nowhere near the same success rate as Joe Amato. But he did win 3 events back in 95, and he would love to take his first win of the 97 season here up against Amato. So we're ready to go for the all-important final. Let's just watch them go and listen to the sound. Blast off time, and it's a great run. Oh, it's Amato on the inside who just snatches it. Joe Amato takes the win. It's his 37th career victory, and Mike Dunn is beaten in the end. 4.65 seconds, 312 miles an hour, and a good reaction time as well. 0.460 seconds. Joe Amato wins once again, and Mike Dunn put in a great try, but he couldn't quite hold it together.
view from Mike Dunn's car, but it wasn't quite enough. And there's Joe Amato, a delighted winner. It's his 37th career win here at the Gatornationals. And really, what a great performance. Let's hear from the winner of this one then. Now putting a bit of pressure on Gary Selsey at the top of the points table.
Joe and his crew celebrating Amato style down here. A lot of hugging, a lot of warmth.
Steve, you know, we had changed the motor and it was a real trash. Tom Evans, you're out there, buddy. My man from Gabriel Dynamax, Valvoline. I'm so excited here. From Walker, Pinnacle. He was here all weekend and he got me started on the track, and him and his wife left and we had a good time. But, you know, for all the Keystone people hung with us last year, the key parts and the Valvoline. Look, my crew, I can't believe, you know, up there we started the car, we did the burnout, we're backing up and there's oil on the track from a little leak. We had trouble, you know, I mean, it was like...
Trouble's never ended.
Trouble never ended. I was like, you know, we had to get the motor running.
Unfortunately, this show has to end. So, Joe Amato, congratulations. Let's go back to Bob for the points.
So Joe Amato really, really emotional at the end of that, and it's Gary Selsey who still leads the points table, 308 points. Joe Amato now on 267. Kenny Bernstein, the reigning champion, still in there as well. Mike Dunn going well and getting himself up to 4th place now, ahead of Scott Kalita. But Joe Amato, the winner of the 27th running of the Gainesville Gatornationals, and he now continues his championship claim, and we'll be watching a lot more of the Winston Cup NHRA Drag Racing Championship as we go throughout the season. So watch out for it on Speed World on Monday nights. That's it for Speed World this week. My thanks to Mark Cole from Ben Edwards. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye for now.